good afternoon. Welcome to the Cincinnati Herald's weekly high school basketball report. I'm Coach Vic. This is Coach Walter White. This is Coach Lannis Timmons. We're bringing you updated stats and information on this week in high school basketball in Cincinnati. We're into the sectional tournament with the boys. This weekend is all about sectional championships. Our girls level, they're district level this week. Correct, Coach?
Correct.
And we're going to bring you some information this week and some updates, some interesting information that's unfolding here as late as yesterday. So we're going to bring you up to speed. Hopefully you'll join us weekly and let us get you caught up on what's happening this week in Cincinnati high school basketball sports. I'm going to turn it over to Coach Timmons right away for his input.
Good afternoon, good people. We have history being made talking about the Division II sectional championship. Hughes is going to be playing Aiken, and Taft will be playing Woodward. Something real significant about these matchups is that Hughes and Taft beat both opponents twice during the regular season. And they say it's always hard to beat a team 3 times. But I just seen a college game. Who was that? They were down. Boy, they came back and beat them by 1. They come back to me. But beating a team 3 times during the regular season is hard to do. But I'm looking forward to going out there and watching these guys play. I was really happy to see Aiken beat McNicholas. Remember I was telling you guys, we were talking about how teams in the CMAC were ranked in the top 10,
Yes.
but they had losing records. But, hey, you know, tournament time, you got to throw the records out the window and just go by how kids been set up with their schedule, matter of fact.
Tournament tested.
Yeah, they're tournament tested. And these guys have played a lot of games. But one of the best games I've seen so far this year was Woodward and Hughes earlier, but then you had Woodward and Indian Hills. And Woodward ended up winning 59-57 in overtime. Terry Durham, Woodward's inside post player, had 42 of the 59 points. And this kid shot 33 free throws, made 24. And I talked about how Terry really understands his body. For a kid to draw that many fouls, I mean, you have to be bumping and leaning and, you know, getting like I said, just putting your body on the defense and end up on the free throw line. But Terry played a great game, kept his composure. He had 4 fouls with like maybe 6 minutes to go in the game, and just did a good job of jabbing at his opponent in a defensive play instead of committing himself. And that's where he was getting a lot of his fouls. But the main thing I was really impressed with him is how he kept his composure. That was one of the biggest things. And you know how we talk about the basketball guys. Terry ended up scoring the last 2 points with 3.7 seconds to go in the overtime. So I was really happy being a Woodward graduate, you know. And then, like I said, seeing 4 public high school teams in the sectional Final Four. So,
What you got, Coach White?
Well, in reference to the girls, this week has been district week. Sectional final week, and districts are today. I just ran out of the districts at Princeton, and I would like to say, on behalf of all us coaches who have coached in Cincinnati all these years and had to go all the way somewhere, even as far as Wilmington, we actually have a place where we can drive to that take 10 to 15 minutes, and that's Princeton High School.
there you go.
They built a phenomenal gym.
Absolutely.
They're getting a phenomenal response from the group. I went out early today to look at Walton Hills play McCauley, which was a dogfight. And when I got there, that parking lot was full. It was parked because you don't have to drive 38 to 45 miles to get to a sectional anymore. It's at Princeton. Now, right now, as I said last week, we're kind of dealing with what one would say the big dogs. Okay, the tougher teams are hanging in there. The top 4 seeds, as of this moment, 3 have progressed. One is Walton Hills, who was 4 seed. They beat McCauley, who was 5 seed. Lakota West just beat Fairmont. They beat them fairly handily. And then, I lost my brain there. Mason, they're the last game. And Mount Notre Dame was playing against a Wayne team, which they seemed to be pretty good. They were long. You talk about zone team, you talk about Syracuse. These girls are long and athletic. Mount Notre Dame beat them on a buzzer beater during the regular season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on a buzzer beater. A lot of talent out there. I'll come back later and give you some names of some of this talent that's just making this girls tournament a big to-do. You can be sure one thing, Southwest Ohio will be represented well when it comes time to get somebody up into that Final Four.
Oh, okay.
Who you think, Coach, looks good enough to advance a little deeper into the tournament on the girls' side?
Okay, well, right now Walden Hills is going to their first regional since 2008. I tell you what, I like Kennedy Miles at Walnut. She's a center. She's just an all-around player. She can bring the ball up court.
She's a junior, too, isn't
She's
she?
a junior.
Right.
I like Sammy Pelosi. I may not be pronouncing the name correct, but it's Sammy. That's going to stick with you. Sammy is the power forward for Mason. She's old school. She shoot twos. Maybe she'll get a three in here now and then. She's going to Florida State. Okay?
Really?
She's a player.
Okay.
At West, they have the Abby young lady, Abby. She's going to Notre Dame. And she's a fighter. She's a bruiser. So the reality is, at this moment in time, based on what's going on with Mount Notre Dame in Division I, the top four will probably be playing it, dog fighting it out in the region. Okay, so that'll be Lakota West, that'll be, Mount Notre Dame, that'll be Mason, and Walden Hills. At the D2 level, D3 level, I haven't had a chance to get to as many games, but I will be getting to their regional games in the upcoming week because it's just so hectic right now. So many games going on. I'm bouncing from one side to the other and trying to get as many in as I can, but I will have more information for you on those levels in my next segment.
Coach Timmons, I'm gonna go back for a second. It's kind of funny to me. I don't totally subscribe to that when they say how hard it is to beat a team.
Three times.
In this instance, when you either just better than a team or you have their number, you know, like the matchup issue is an issue for you, you're probably gonna get beat 3 times.
Right.
You know, and that's just the way I get when you got a nail biter game 1, a kind of nail biter game 2, and then game 3, that rubber match. You know, that same team won the first 2, but it's been 2 nail biters. But when you just have a team's number, sometimes it doesn't matter. You can beat them time and time again. I'm wondering, and I'll say this out loud because this is what I feel about basketball. I'm wondering if this year Taft has Woodwards. That's what I'm wondering. And I know you're a Woodward alum, and I know you know the game, and I want to get your input on that. Jarrell's my guy, coached him, the head coach at Woodward. You know, wanted to be a great game. I want to say I'm neutral, but I can't totally say I'm neutral. He's like my son. Right. So I really want to see them do well. But DeMarco's put a good squad together down there. He and his staff, Wally Moo and that crew, they're doing a great job. They have some talented kids, some new additions after the new year. And they just might have Woodward's number. The way they played them at Woodward, I personally felt they were in their heads. And they beat them at Woodward after Woodward had just come off upsetting Hughes earlier in the week or the previous week. And then they beat them when Woodward went to visit Taft on a neutral floor. What are your thoughts about digging a little deeper into that matchup?
You know, it's something that you bring that up because I was looking at it like this. I think Hughes have a better chance of beating Aiken 3 times.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And also, I started looking at Woodward and Taft, and I was like, wow, I don't know if they have enough to compete with Taft. I don't know. But I tell you what, this could be the difference maker. DeMarco Bradley Jr. is out. See, we talked about that.
Yes, we did. Yes, we
And
did.
so that would make Woodward chances a little better.
Yeah.
And, you know, with one real point guard, and I would call him Deshaun Lawrence. He's what I consider the real point guard that they have. And, you know, without DeMarco, you know, that's going to mean a lot on
Absolutely.
Lawrence.
Absolutely.
And the good thing that Woodward has, they have the little Thomas kid and Cooper. Kid what they call Kane.
Kane, DeMontez.
Yes. Yeah, DeMontez Cooper. I think him and Thomas can create a lot of problems for Lawrence if they just, you know, alternate on heating him up as he bring the ball up the floor, you know.
Well, Coach,
So-
and the other thing, you know, you got the man-child in Terry Durham.
Right.
And you know, when you have a kid that can dominate a game like that, if he has that kind of game and goes off, I mean, the kid had 42, as you opened the show speaking about. So what's to stop him from having 42 again if he gets the touches? I mean, if, you know, he could go off and it could be a much better game. But even with Krishan
Stinger.
Stinger,
right.
is it Stringer?
Stringer, I'm sorry,
for
Stringer.
Tav. That matchup was sort of a wash when they played at Woodward. Now, I don't know how that matchup worked at Tav, but at Woodward, Krishan Stringer was coming off a little bit of an injury, and it was still sort of a wash.
Right.
And then Tab's added more players. The key is, I think, what you
The Herald
said.
kid is, you know.
But I think the key is what you said with DeMarco not
Right.
being there. If Woodward's going to jump on him, and Woodward does have to get some production. You can't have 17 points from the rest of your team tonight.
Right.
Versus Taft. I mean, regardless of what Terry has, even if he has 35, you got to have more than 17
Right.
from the rest of your team in order to advance against Taft.
Here's going to be the difference between Indian Hills, the way they played Terry Durham compared to how Taft is going to play. Because I even asked Coach Bradley, I said, well, what did you do? Because I didn't make the second game when we went to Taft. So I said, what did you do against Durham? He said, he said, we fronted him and we played a man right behind him. And then when they threw the ball into the post, while the ball's in flight, we send one of our guards or the closest man to him and double Terry, you know, up. So that had him confused.
Right.
Because when he turned left, turned right, he always had somebody there. And then he had somebody behind him. So he was getting rid of the ball. Matter of fact, what was real conscious about throwing the ball in there to him. Because you always try to tell you guys, look at the defense before you make your pass. So you don't put your teammate in a bad situation. I'm talking about the one you pass him to.
And we were talking before we came on about defending a kid that played so dominantly as did Terry Durham.
Right.
And some of the things we would do. Look, we're not trying to say things that would give a strategy away with anybody to give anybody an advantage, but it's just interesting. We're all in agreement that we're not going to let one player just beat us like that. I was able to take in the Elder Winton Woods game last night, and make no mistake about it, I can say this out loud, who I was rooting for, with all the, you know, the climate of that foolishness in the city and the chance versus St. X with the Asian kid and the African-American kid a couple of weeks ago. You know, I'm not going to hold that against the elder kids, but it's just hard to root for that until I understand that maybe something is being done internally to address it, you know, civil treatment training, some things like that, you know, sensitivity training, that kind of stuff. But the game was clearly an elder pace. My wife and I walked in the door there toward the beginning of the first quarter, but it had already started, obviously, and Elder had already gotten a little run. You know, and I was telling her, you know, just talking basketball and a couple of young men that I knew that were close to us, a lead of 6, 7, 8 points with a team like Elder versus a team like Winton Woods in the contrasting styles reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs kind of lead later on in the game. It's almost double the actual number of points, you know. And Winton Woods didn't make that total adjustment until they got really desperate. And when they did, they trapped and they turned them over. It was like the ball was hot. They were turning them over, but it was too late. What the Elder was doing was very similar to what I saw LaSalle do last year against Princeton up in Hamilton. I think that game is 38-28, if I'm not mistaken. You know, those are things we talked about when Corey Blunt came on our show and talked a little basketball, the shot clock issue.
Right.
The fact that we don't have one. You know, you can't be mad at teams for taking advantage of not having, and so that's what Elder did a lot of last night. You know, when was continuing with man up, and so Elder was hitting it hard, like I'm going to attack you, and when was sitting down, like okay, he's getting ready to play, but they just pulled it back out. All they were doing was fake attacking, you know, not directly looking at the clock, but very much aware of that clock doing this, and we're up 8, we're up 10, we're up 12, you know.
Right.
That kind of thing. So it was a kind of frustrating game. I think the most excitement that happened in the game, from what I understand, was after we left. I mean, they made a frantic type of comeback. When Woods did, they still ended up losing by 5, 51 to 56. But I never thought they would touch the 50s with the way the game was going. So they made a really frantic run there at the end, but you know, still came up short. So that was a sleeper that I had. They had won earlier in the week against Walnut Hills, Winton Woods did. So I thought they might have been on a roll. Now, I stand corrected also. I want to give Coach Dave Lumpkin some love and some credit. I thought with Andre Tate going to the program, I just missed communication with us. I thought Andre was maybe the head coach there. I didn't know. I didn't know.
No,
that
he was
coach.
assistant.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So
I know.
watching him last
I know.
night, I don't think anyone corrected me, and maybe you didn't hear me say it earlier in the year. I was giving Andre some love, and he deserves it. But I didn't acknowledge Coach Lumpkin as I should, because I thought Andre was the head coach there until last night, actually attending the game.
No, I know.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting as they put their heads together as coaches, because that's a pretty good coaching staff. But I was able to take that game, and then watching some other games. You know, there's a looming sleeper in Lakota East. It's a good matchup for them. There's some internal issues going on at Princeton. For those of you that haven't heard about it, it's an unfortunate thing, because so many of us are rooting for Princeton. Coach White talked about the magnificent facility that they have. You know, they have that championship in 14, I believe, with Kelsey Mitchell and Carly Pogue and some other great players that they had. I mean, it's a wonderful school. My wife and children all went to the school, so we support it. We live in Springdale. We like to see them do well, the community flourish. But there are some internal issues that have happened with the team. And unfortunately, 2 of the starters and the primary player, well, the guy that they talk about the most, Darius Baisley, kid, the 6'9" All-American, is going to Syracuse, apparently stepped out on the floor last night. And coaches, listen to us. There is so much managing that goes with these tournament games and the urgency of it. Coach, if we have a fairly large staff, we need to have coaches' meetings and responsibilities for everybody. Why do you have a big staff, Coach, and you don't give them responsibilities, and we miss that opportunity? That should have never happened. They were playing Sycamore, Princeton was, and they won ultimately by 34 points, I believe it was. And there was a hard foul that took place, probably out of frustration, and the Princeton kids stepped off the bench toward the court, which is a no-no. And so now you've got all these different administrators and folks in the OHSAA, and everybody's involved, and these kids are supposedly suspended for 2 games. Darius Baisley is one, and the other kid is Dominic Pierce. Now, these are kids we've talked about during the course of the year that are impact players. And so I don't know how this thing is going to play out. The next game for Princeton is against Lakota East. That's one of those matchups. It's going to be hard to beat a third time, because if you look at the second matchup, Lakota East played Princeton a heck of a lot closer with Darius Baisley.
Another Pierce kid.
Right,
too.
and Pierce both on the
Right.
team. Now they're matching up in the tournament. Both of those kids are gone. That's going to be interesting. Not to mention Lakota East has come down the pike with some rhythm, beating some pretty good teams. I think we talked a couple weeks ago, Coach, they beat West Claremont. And then they turned around in the tournament just this past week and beat LaSalle.
Right.
So they're on a roll.
Right.
And this matchup is sort of favorable for them. Certainly they'd rather play Princeton without Baisley and Pierce than with them. So you got to watch out for that game. And then what looms for Princeton, if they advance, is Wayne possibly again. Or another one of those matchups that really is harder to win a third time against Oak Hills.
Oak Hills.
Because it's Oak Hills and Wayne is going to play the winner of Princeton and Dakota East. So Princeton has their hands full right now. If they can bounce back, we'll see. That sophomore class is talented as can be. So maybe they'll, maybe these next 2 weeks, as we say, will be addition by subtraction, the old chemistry that the kids had. But who wants to play without a 6'9" All-American?
Right.
So hopefully they can hold it down, and we'll see what happens. But that'll be worthy of reporting on, guys. as we come back. A few of the other games that have taken place, I'm a little stuck on the CMAC, Coach, because I'm so partial to want those kids to do well, because we don't always get the scholarships and things that some of the kids are talented enough to get and deserving of. But again, just piggyback on you with Aiken and Hughes, playing some really good players, Woodward and Tav, a lot of talent. And then these are teams and players, which is pretty cool about this juncture in the season. These are players that we've spoken about our entire show.
Right.
From the beginning until this point, they're
Right.
still standing.
Yes.
Deer Park is still standing. They're running through the competition. Now, I have a question before one of you guys jump in. I was looking and I still haven't found Dunbar. What am I?
They're done.
They're done.
I
You
missed
didn't know?
it. No, I missed it.
Done.
I missed it. Who they beat? Who beat them?
No.
Nobody.
They had an ineligible player.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so they're done from the tournament before it even started.
You know what,
So
Coach?
they didn't, I'm so disappointed that situation.
I missed that, Coach. This is the time of year that I look for them.
Traditionally, you
Because
always.
it's a tradition. They
Right.
put kids in
Right.
the pros. I mean,
Right.
some really good players that they put in the pros. And I always get to see them either Trent Kettering, Trent Arena. Mostly is where I've seen them. Some fantastic matchups. I've seen them for the last few years up there. So I was searching, didn't realize it. Now, you know what's ironic about that, guys, is this being the first year that fixture, that permanent fixture, that almost larger than life figure in Coach Pullen
Yeah.
being gone. This is
Yeah.
the first year, right, that he's no longer. I don't know. all
He's
the
at
details.
Middletown.
He's at
coaching,
Middletown.
assistant
on
coach.
staff. Yeah.
I was going to, the reason I jumped in, Coach White, is because I had just talked to Chuck Taylor. He's the head coach for Dunbar. He was at the Woodward Indian Hills game scouting. Okay, so maybe you can chime in, Walt, and tell, maybe you know more about it than me. All I just knew that I heard that they had an ineligible player and he was no longer allowed to play. What do you know?
That's basically what I heard, and also I heard that they were also petitioning the Ohio High School Athletic Association to try to get back in the tournament. But from what I understand, they did put a game on hold / schedule it out further because of the matchup situation. They brought another team back in, and they're trying to get all that figured out. But I don't think that's going to bowl for Dunbar actually getting back in.
I don't think
So it was definitely an eligible player, and unfortunately, if you playing guys who shouldn't be playing,
Absolutely.
you probably gonna get caught.
Absolutely.
It's not
You
easy.
will get caught.
Yeah,
Look at
go-
Purcell, the one year that
Yeah.
Purcell got, what, to the, what were they
We
supposed
got
to go
to the regional,
state or the regional, one of them?
regional
Had one kid
final,
play.
regional semis. We were getting on the bus at 2:05. The kids that had lunch, got everything packed, got on the bus laughing, walked up in there. About 10 minutes later, one of the assistant athletic directors said, "Guys, you got to get off the bus." And the way it happened was a kid who went to the Paul Crystal Ray, unfortunately, and I put the onus on the adult.
Yeah.
When he transferred over, said he never played that season. And he played for 32 seconds in the first game for the Paul Crystal Ray. He was actually out for 11 games. He did not play 11 games. But by the time we got to the tournament, it just never should have happened that he played.
And coaches,
hated the
but it always comes out. I don't know if you guys have ever been a part of a staff or the victim of any of that. Got me really frustrating for me because I never thought in a million years it would happen. But I've got a player, and it happened come second semester. And we find out, the administration tells us that the kid has too many semesters. He wasn't too old or any of that kind of stuff, but he had enrolled in a school out of state, and that's when his clock began to run. And so you get, they didn't hit us in the tournament time, so we were able to bounce back and get a sectional championship and all of that stuff. But man, it was still an adjustment playing without the player. He had played the whole year of football. He was ineligible then. And then he played 6-9 games in basketball, and then we get calls about whatever, and then he has to sit. But it just seems to come out whether it's delayed information being relayed, somebody knowing and sitting on it to a certain point, or just taking that time to actually investigate and bring the information forth. But it comes out. My point is, coaches, if you have a clue that you have a player that shouldn't be playing, it's safer to not play him, and you just build your chemistry over time. You know, because we talked earlier about the preseason, the regular season, the postseason. It's different. The off season. There's 4 different seasons at least in basketball, so you can work toward betterment. You know, and I need to know I got guys that are going to be eligible and I can rely on, and then we'll just move forward. But all of that trying to cut corners and be slick with it, and I'm not accusing any coaches of that, but some coaches have a little better idea than they lead on.
Show up.
You know.
Yeah. Coach Hunter, you forgot about at Western Hills when I was there? My third year.
I did forget.
Yeah, we lost. We had to forfeit our first 10 games. I had a kid who was a 9th semester senior. I'm not going to call his name, but we had to, deal with that. But going back to what you were talking about, I'm going to interrupt you when you're talking about how the Princeton situation went down. When I was coaching, I don't know if you remember, I never wanted all my coaches to sit next to me.
Right.
I always put them in between the players. Right. And I used to tell them, I say, talk to them and just making sure that, they stay focused. And then when they come out the game, they might feel bad or whatever, talk to them, because we might need them again. Absolutely. Even if we don't need them again, talk to them, But, dealing with those 2 situations, what you talking about, I remember it because, kids, man, they get so competitive in the game and the people in the gym. So they might have a tendency to want to get up, without thinking first, like the Princeton kids did.
But
go ahead, Walter.
If I like to say real quick, the head coach has enough management going on during that game.
Right.
Those assistant coaches, I can't tell you the number of times, and I'll admit it to you. I will tell you the truth, that when a kid would jump, I would grab, boom, sit your back down here. Because when you're in hostile territory, and your players have to do what they're told to do, because this thing that happened, I'm a firm believer in aftermath. So when something happened to one person, it affects everybody. So now you got 2 players that are eligible for 2 games in tournament. Considering in tournament, if you lose one, you're out.
The first thing I said was about the staff, right? And giving staff responsibilities. We're in crisis management, all kinds of titles as coaches in those situations, because when the rules come out, guys, and it's indicated that if you step 1 foot on the floor, whatever the rule is, we have to adhere to the rules. And whether we, here's another, not necessarily a big giant elephant in the room, but there's a smaller elephant in the room too, guys, the application of the rules, some teams versus others, and how you choose to enforce those rules. It's just like if we go back to the conversation we had last week on our show, and they were talking about changing the rule with the kids transferring to make them not just sit out 11 games, but sit out the tournament because they're trying to stop you from building a super team and winning a state championship. Why, of the 1,000+ teams that we have on 4 levels, do you put Deer Park in the picture? It's food for thought. It's food for thought. We've talked to some other people about this Princeton thing. We don't know how they're going to do, what they're going to do, how they're going to appeal it, how it's going to play out. But some say not enough for what's been handed down. And then others are going to say if they enforce it, it's the rule. But there's sometimes a gray area in the rule. And some of our teams, the public school teams, especially for instance, the public school team, don't always get the benefit of the doubt. Gray area. But the other point I want to make with the responsibilities of coaches, we have to know in a lopsided game, a team is likely to provoke you, just to kind of put their impact, put their mark on your team in a negative way for beating them up so badly. For instance, if you go back 2 years ago, I was at, I believe it was Wilmington, and a kid from Taft got provoked, and I want to say they were playing McNick or somebody, and he got put out of the game with a second tech, which meant he was suspended the next 2 games. In the tournament, next 2 games in the tournament. So again, our coaches, when you put us between players when other things are going on. Some coaches give you responsibility of keeping deflections, fouls, possessions, a host of other things. Some coaches are on there, just like you go to college, you got a grad assistant. He's at that liaison between the players and the coach. He's a close guy between the coach and the players because he can relate to them. So relationships and telling guys, and somebody like you said, Coach White, almost hog collaring, clotheslining a kid before he would do that, because I would rather a parent get upset with me from being a little more forceful with the kid and holding back behind these lines than allowing him to cross that line 1 foot.
There you go.
And lose 2 games. So again, we have to, when you talk about assembling a good staff and really coaching, all the details. Because right now, guys, every possession counts.
Yeah.
That's where we are right now in the tournament. And it's advance or go home. It's just that simple. And that's a level of constructive criticism that the kids need to hear. But again, this kid's under the microscope. He's getting a lot of accolades, a lot of stuff. But, he's still a young man, prone to make a few bad decisions. We just hope he doesn't bump his head so hard he can't recover for it. We started the show, and we usually share a word of encouragement from the Word. It just feels right to insert a word of encouragement right there that's relevant to him. In the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48, it says, "To whom much is given, much more is required, much more will be expected, much more is demanded." So, as young men and young women who've been given an enormous amount of talent, if you visit the hospitals, the Burn Institute, you see some people that would love to trade places with you that are in that predicament for the rest of their lives. Debilitating spinal conditions, cancer, burns, all kinds of stuff. They can't reach down and pick up anything. You put $1 million on the floor, they can't get it. So you have to remain humble, and you have to understand that God's blessed you to be healthy. And then you take that gift. Our gifts will be used in service to the Lord. And how do we do that? Our service to the Lord is how we treat those around us, whether it's coaches, family, teachers, whomever. So it's a lesson not just for that young man, for all of the young men and women that are listening to the show. Want to share real quickly something about the tournament. Cov Calf is rolling right along. They beat someone up pretty badly across the river. We always talk about them briefly and keep it moving. Another team that we're leaving out, nothing personal, Withrow. They're in it. A big game tonight, 7:30 at Hamilton High School. They play Moeller, correct. So that's a really potentially good game. So we have some good games looming, but some of the teams that we spoke about, some of the players that we spoke about all year, they're still alive. We started off talking about Princeton. They're still alive. We talked about Moeller, certainly. They're still alive. Many of the players that we talked about, their teams are still alive. Deer Park is still alive. North College Hill is still alive. So we got a lot of really good teams that are still alive, a lot of good basketball. Tip-off here's at 5 o'clock. I believe it's St. Xavier. I'll get back to it, but I believe tip-off is at 5 o'clock with 2 pretty good teams today. It's just a lot of good basketball
going on.
That's still going on.
If I may make the point about Moeller and Withrow, you got 2 basically 7-footers going against each other. You got the Hayes kids and you got the Wall kids.
Yes.
So that's going, hey, if you like in the sky basketball, well, there it is. There it is for you to see.
You got to know there's going to be some college coaches at that one.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Pop Walker.
No, I was going to just say, in reference to what you were saying, moving on in the area of how good it is and how it gets better because the competition just accentuates itself. I was at the Purcell game last night, and Purcell and Deer Park played. Deer Park played before, and they handled their team fairly quick. And Purcell had to fight against Seven Hills. Seven Hills has the Hill kid. The lefty.
His son?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Willie's son.
Bryce.
That boy can shoot. He's a
Willie
lefty.
does a good job.
Yeah, he do.
Yeah, and they laid on Purcell. Seven Hills, very tall team, Division III, but they laid it on Purcell pretty heavy in the first half. But it said get back to that, and I helped with the Walton Hill girls, and I helped with Purcell. More Purcell, I call myself some social domestic major because I talk to the kids about how to act. at Walton Hills, I scout and then try to give pointers, and to the coach, because he's a longtime friend of mine. But Purcell grinded it out. They came back and won. The thing about tournament is possessions and who got the grind.
Purcell was losing to 7 Hills?
Oh, in the first half, yeah.
How much they in the winning by?
Probably by about 6 or 7.
Really?
Willie does a good enough job.
He keep them in the
It's
game.
gonna be
keep
that
his team
close.
in the
I
game.
think it
And
will.
Coach, we go back and revisit discussions we had earlier in the year about the lack of a shot clock being
Yeah.
like a neutralizing component in high school basketball. Willie does a good job of taking advantage of that, so that doesn't surprise me. The tip-off at 5 o'clock a few minutes ago that I was speaking of was at Lakota West. It's Oak Hills and St. Ags. Now, we talked about St. Ags.
That's gonna be a hard
early
game.
in the year,
Yeah.
and they're still.
That's
in
a hard pick for
and
me.
then the winner from that game has to advance. In all likelihood, I would say they're going to play Wayne, but you can't sleep on. Well, they're going to play Wayne because Wayne has already advanced. So Wayne beat Centerville. I was going to say that would be a good game. It was okay, but Wayne advanced. So they're going to the winner of the St. X Oak Hills game will play at the University of Dayton Arena on the 10th next Saturday versus Dayton Wayne, which is the team that beat Princeton, and the Quisenberry kid had 30 plus points. I think he signed at Youngstown State. Really good little guard.
Okay.
So that's going to be a game worth going to see. You know, going up here north. You know, UD always has some fantastic
Yes, sir.
tournament games. So
Oh,
we
man.
bounced from Trent Kettering, or Kettering Trent. I'm not sure which one is appropriately stated.
Trent Arena.
It's just Trent Arena, okay. We go from Trent Arena to UD depending on what the schedule is, watching 2 or 1 or whichever level.
Yes, sir.
So that's that time of year. So we got a lot of good basketball. I love the matchup you were talking about, Coach, with Withrow and Moeller,
Yeah.
and there being 2 7-footers,
Yeah.
nearly 7-footers on the floor. So, you know, if the kid from Withrow hasn't signed, I believe it's Abba Lawal,
Right.
if he hasn't signed, there are going to be coaches there to see how he matches
Yeah.
up
Lawal.
against the
That's a
Texas.
heck of
And
a
the Hayes
daggone
kid
Zion.
that signed Texas.
Right.
They playing that tonight?
Yeah, yes, they
Wow,
play.
you gotta
They
miss
play.
that.
I think they play at 7:30. See which one it
Where
is.
they play at
practice.
Lakota West?
Let me get back here and see where it was.
Those are, man, this is some good basketball.
It's some really good basketball.
Yeah,
But you don't
man.
get to see too many 7-footers. You remember what's the kid from Walnut Hills, 6'10", went to was it?
The Johnson kid.
Yeah, what's his first name?
Went to Akron.
Isaiah was an
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Ended up being the-
And he played Maverick Morgan from Springboro.
Right. Who went to
Man,
Illinois.
That was a
Oh, yeah,
man. That was a
buddy.
fantastic high school game.
How's he doing up in Illinois as a kid?
Actually, no, I got my nephew got his doctorate from Illinois, and he's a big Illinois alumni, and he did okay. He didn't.
He's done now?
Yeah,
He's 4 years up?
Yeah, he's 4 years up. Because now Isaiah Johnson, who, by the way, for us old schoolers, his granddaddy was Walter Johnson.
No,
DM
Cleveland
for
Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
Uh,
Number 7-1.
He went to Akron, MAC
Yeah.
Player of the Year last year.
Right, his last year.
And he went overseas, but unfortunately, you know, when we were coming along, some of us who could have had the chance to play overseas, I got offers to play. After I left the school I played at, we were all told how glamorous it was, how much money it was, and how easy it was. Like they driving you around in chauffeur limousines, and
Not quite.
you getting
not quite.
you getting an apartment free and all the companionship you want. Well, the reality is a lot of the kids get over there, and it's kind of tough. And some of those salaries are like $35,000 a year. And
So where is he at? Is he still over
he's
there?
up at Akron. He came back. He was in Sweden. He came back, and I guess now they're trying to figure out what the next step is.
His teammate coach from Winton Woods, Quan Cheatham,
Right.
he's also overseas.
Overseas, too, I
on
see.
the contract. Now going back to that game, Walnut Hills and Springboro.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, Coach, it was electric. You know, that's the first time I heard that chant. I believe that we will win.
Yeah.
And it's a rhythm to it. If you've never heard it,
Who has this?
Springboro was the first
Oh.
one. but the fan base for Walnut Hills and Springboro, it was just electric. So
And then the head coach of Walnut Hill's son hit the game winner at the end of the game, a 3 at the end of the game to win that game.
you know what, Coach Sterling Gilmore was on the team. A good DJ Wingfield. I forgot. I know Walnut Hills.
They won on the buzzer beater.
But I'm talking about this time of year in these college gyms, in this atmosphere. These kids are so excited to go play, because some of the kids won't advance to college. You know, for you to end your career playing on Rice State's court, you know, or University of Dayton Arena, or wherever you play, that's a big to-do. Tonight's game, guys, that against Withrow versus Moeller,
That's a game.
is at Hamilton. It's at 7:30 at Hamilton. So that's a
Which is another
that's
excellent
a big game.
arena.
Absolutely.
Beautiful arena.
That's a great basketball game. So for those of you looking for places to go tonight, it's still early. You got a couple hours to get to some of these locations.
I got to
Man,
get out a little bit.
to get up to
start at 6.
where's our game with
Mason, middle
it's
school.
Mason.
Uh-huh.
Good arena to see a high school basketball game. We saw Wyoming, great team last year, and Taft and some of those T. Hughes and Mount Healthy. They were all up in that log jam of really good talented teams. Let's not sleep on this kid from Hughes, the Dominic Bruton kid.
Oh, yeah.
The kid is special, guys.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is a special
He's a
talent.
Division I player.
Yes, he
High
is.
major
Yes, he is.
Division I.
So you want to go see that CMAC competition. As far as back-to-back games, I think the Mason agenda is it, because you get to see Hughes and that talent against Aiken, who's done a great job, and then you get to see Woodward and Taft, which is just always a great game. So guys, who do you have? Does anyone have a sleeper? Anybody looking at anybody else that might?
Right now, I think all the sleepers and the girls have already slept.
They already been put to sleep.
They already put to sleep.
Coach,
Well,
anybody?
I tell you what, with the MAC, man, the C-MAC, I was just thinking, I don't have a sleep because it's a lot of photo finishes on there. To me, like I said, I'll tell you what, I got Hughes over Aiken, and I'm gonna get a nod to Taft over Woodward. Even though I'm a Woodward alumni, I'm just going by what I think they got and what Woodward got. But missing DeMarco Bradley,
Yeah.
man, that might.
Gives him a
I don't
chance.
know. Give him a chance. Give him a better chance.
I don't get to pick sleepers week after week. You pick one that it's kind of like you're over. But what I am going to do, and this is not a total going out on the limb, but I'm going to pick Deer Park on 3,
Okay.
Taft on 2,
Mm.
and Moeller on 1. To at minimum, all 3 of those teams, Final 4.
Going Gamble 4. Division 4.
Going to I picked one to the
Gamble.
Final 4.
Now.
Yeah, Coach. I'm going another level. With
When you
that.
saying Final Four regional,
The Final 4 in the
Columbus.
state.
In
In the
Columbus.
state, the Final 4 in the state, Coach. I am picking Deer Park on the 3 level.
okay,
Who did I Taft
You-
on 2?
No, you said Taft.
Taft on 2,
okay, got
and
you.
Moeller on
Gotcha.
1 to make it to the Final 4.
Now, if I may, before we finish, because I think unfortunately, it seems like there's been a lot of elephants in the room in these segments we've been doing.
Yes.
I had let me redress this. I think I personally, had to experience probably the toughest thing I've ever experienced in my sports history. So my daddy put a ball of some sorts in my hand when I was 3 years old. That would have been 1958. So I guess I got close to 60 years of playing around in some type of arena or on some type of field. Last night, while Purcell was fighting for their lives as a basketball team, one of the Purcell Marion classmates, not an athlete, was shot to death in his grandmother's house. When we use the word aftermath. We had to, and not me, but the head coach and his staff had to actually go after the game was finished and walk in that locker room. It was at Princeton. And they asked me to come down and tell that to the kids. And I've never seen something so hard to absorb. Because, of course, the kids were totally broken down, because that was their classmate. Some closer than others. but now one kid had a dry eye. Shout out to the Princeton school system and the athletics. They basically did a super job of accommodating the Purcell Marion players and staff, because they actually moved us over to a different locker room so the kids could have privacy. And for an hour and a half, the adults did the job of trying to help the kids move from one spot in their heart to the next, because they had to get the kids home. But the key to this whole thing is, we got up this morning at 9 o'clock, because I still consider myself a helper at Purcell. And we met the kids at school at 10 o'clock. And that's probably something a child shouldn't have to live through. And the biggest point I think came out of today is, if you're a young athlete, you're a role model. If you're a role model, sometimes you got to go out on the limb and sometimes tell some of your friends, like, hey, you shouldn't do that. Because every day, if you're a good coach, you preaching to your kids about doing things correctly. I won't say right or wrong, I say correctly. And if your kids can share with other kids who may not be around you every day some of your wisdom. You got people who recite what Coach Wooden says 60 years later. And they give that to their children who are not giving it to their children. And it works. And it's important. So pray for Gregory Thompson's soul. Pray for Gregory Thompson's mother, who, by the way, is, from what I understand, the principal of St. Joseph's School. Pray for downtown. And pray for his father and his family. Because this young man lost his life at 17 years of age. And we have to be cognizant that there's stuff a lot bigger than sports.
And you know, Coach, just maybe final thoughts here. You know, it speaks to what we've done, invested in for so many years, rather, as coaches, and we always talk about it being bigger than basketball. You know, it being about life. I know Coach White and Coach Timmons often coach and teach life's lessons. Coach Timmons, who I had the pleasure of coaching with, disciplinarian, wants the kids to do it right because he wants to have a better chance. He wants them to have a better chance of being successful in the real world. You know, so when you have stuff like that happen, no matter how it happens, none of that's even important because it's not coming back. The person's not coming back. Your heart goes out. Using a young, healthy life, no matter how it happens, it's just tough to deal with. You know, and sports, here we go with this basketball thing. Sometimes it's a form of therapy for what we go through, for us to rally around each other, go see a game, and just get excited and cheer for 2 hours, and then get back to the real world. So the jobs that you all do, coaches and players, you just don't know how important it is to someone in need. You know, to pull a little kid out of a situation in his home that he might be in, just to get some time in the gym and work on getting better, and ultimately becomes his way out, you know, of the neighborhood, you know, freeing his mind. So we encourage you to embrace not just basketball, but all athletics, and let's pray, you know, one for the other, that we might be healed. I don't know, Coach Timmons, did you have any final thoughts before we?
No, I'm going to run out here and watch Hughes play Aiken. They start at 6 o'clock. So I know it's going to be packed out there. So
yeah.
I'm going to get on out here and see them and wish both teams good luck, and along with Woodward and Taft.
Yeah. And so in signing off again, let's just pray for one another and keep this young man's family in our thoughts and prayers, that they might be lifted up and healed. It's a process. It's truly a process. And we thank you for joining us yet again, the Cincinnati Herald's weekly high school basketball report. We hope you'll join us again. We'll come back next week and bring you some updates on this tournament challenge. I'm Vic Hunter, Coach Vic Hunter. This is Coach Walter White. And this is Coach Lannis Timmons signing off again, saying thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.